What's up, guys? I'm Chris Spags here, back with another showdown breakdown for tonight's Thursday night football game between the Los Angeles Rams and the Seattle Seahawks, courtesy of Awesemo.com. We've got ourselves what should be a competitive game between two quality division rivals, so right now let's get the positive energy in the air, and please hit that like button down below, and also comment the player you think is going to be tonight's slate breaker. We've had guys like Jalen Samuels and Jordan Howard breaking the slates in our last few showdown breakdowns, so tell me who you think is going to be that guy tonight down below. But let's get to it, and as always, let's start with the quarterbacks, and the first guy I want to hit on is Jared Goff at Seattle in a game which there are 23.5 implied points for the Rams. Goff showed his upside in week 4 as he threw 68 attempts and routes to 517 yards passing, but a road game for Goff can be a problem if Seattle generates a rush, given that Goff's had a poor 62.1 QB rating under pressure. Now, Seattle hasn't been a stellar pass rush group with a bad 65 grade from PFF. They do allow opposing QBs a 67% completion rate, but Goff's flaws and his road struggles make him a play to pivot off of, with over 60% ownership expected for him today. And of course, you have Russell Wilson on the other side against the Rams in a game where there were 25 implied points for Seattle. Russ's efficiency has stayed elite with a 73% completion rate and QB ratings of 125.3 in a clean pocket, as well as 133.3 on throws of 20 plus yards. The Rams are likely better in coverage than they showed in week 4 versus Tampa Bay, but Wilson has rushed 4.8 times per game and should have a decent floor as long as the game remains competitive. And now onto the running backs in this showdown slate, we got to talk about the much maligned Todd Gurley at Seattle. Todd Gurley's 15 touches per game are a significant drop off from last year's 22.4 per game, and the short week is not ideal for his knee issues, but he's an interesting contrarian play with low ownership given his 2.3 red zone rushes per game and a still solid 3.3 yards after contact per rush. Seattle's run defense is their best group with a 79 grade from PFF, while the Rams' run blocking gets a very poor 40 grade, but Gurley's lowish ownership or Malcolm Brown's with his 6.5 touches per game could be in a tournament-winning lineup. And on the other side, we have Chris Carson versus the Rams coming off of a big game. Carson got back on track in week 4 with 22 carries and 4 catches for 145 all-purpose yards. It remains appealing with a reasonable price, particularly in lineup builds that assume the Rams' passing attack doesn't pull ahead. The Rams have a shockingly poorly graded 48 run defense from PFF despite allowing just 3.8 yards per rush, so Carson or pivot to Rashad Penny, who had 11 touches last game, could be valuable in a large portion of tournament builds. And now let's talk about the Rams receivers at Seattle. Cooper Kupp has been the obvious top option with 11.5 targets per game, but Robert Woods runs the most routes at 43.3 per game, and Brandon Cooks projects to be the lowest owned despite his big playability. With the Rams wide receivers all expected to find over 40% ownership, Gerald Everett's 25.5 routes per game could be worth exposure, and you could say the same for Tyler Higbee, who runs 14.3 routes per game, but has been targeted a very high 34.9% on those routes. And on the other side, we'll have those Seattle receivers at home versus the Rams. Chris Godwin killed the Rams from the slot in week 4 with 9 targets on 25 routes in the slot, while Tyler Lockett runs 73% of his routes in the slot, while being Seattle's most targeted receiver with 8 per game. Will Dissly also sees slot routes and was up to 23 routes overall in week 4, so he's likely a more interesting play than DK Metcalf with less projected ownership, while David Moore lurks as a cheap slate breaker with low prices and 13.5 routes per game. And let's close it out with the defenses and the kickers, and the Seattle defense versus the Rams is in play for me. Seattle's defense at home is interesting given Goff's struggles under pressure, but they haven't been great at generating a rush with a middling 6.5% sack rate. They also haven't been breaking up passes well with just a 10.4% pass deflection rate, so they are not a high volume play. And on the other side, you have a less interesting Rams defense versus Seattle. Russell Wilson takes some sacks with an 8.3% sack rate, but he's yet to throw an INT in 2019 after a low 1.6% INT rate last year, so it seems unlikely that the Rams defense has a lot of value for lineups other than their low ownership. And this does seem like a game where the kickers could be worth some exposure. Greg Zuerlein is likely too cheap given that he averages over 11 fantasy points per game over the last 2 seasons, as well as Goff's road struggles, while Jason Myers seems a bit less appealing at a higher price than Zuerlein given a mostly mediocre Rams red zone defense who allows 5.6 points per red zone trip this year. So there you have it. That's what I'm seeing for tonight's showdown slate. So right now, please hit that like button and also comment the player you think is going to be tonight's slate breaker down below. We also have a contest going on right now at our @Awesemo_com Twitter handle, so go check out the pinned tweet right there. All you have to do is guess which player is going to score the most fantasy points tonight, and if you are correct and you're randomly selected, you'll win a free season-long pass to all the NFL content we have at Awesemo.com. But if you feel like you're too good for the freebies, you can also use this promo code Switch and Hedge for half off your first month of Awesemo Plus. Get all the ownership projections and player projections, including just for the showdown slates. Go check out all the patches we have at Awesemo.com/join and find one that works for you. And of course, go follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Chris Spags. I've got pretty much 7 days a week of content, a lot for the NFL, a lot more coming up for the NBA. So keep up with me at Twitter and Instagram at Chris Spags. These videos have been getting a ton of views recently, so thank you guys for the support so far. Please do hit that like button before you go. I'll be back with you guys on Monday for another showdown breakdown for our Monday Night Football game. So I'll see you guys then, and good luck.